everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's Claudia, the Organized Homemaker. Well, you know what time it is. It is seed starting time and gardening time, especially where I live in Zone 8A. 7B, 8A in Georgia. We are averaging temperatures in the 50s and 60s, and we occasionally are getting down into the 30s and 20s at night. So it is high time because I can clearly tell spring is on its way here in my garden. My daffodils have woken up. My quince bushes are blooming. Muscari is blooming. I have other things blooming in the yard, which lets me know I need to get going. Also, I created a seed starting checklist that shows me which seeds I need to start at 12 weeks out from my last frost date, 10 weeks out from my last frost date, 4 to 6 weeks, etc. And so that is my guide, and it's giving me my marching orders so I know what to start when. Today, I'm going to be starting some kale seeds as well as peppers. Peppers take a long time to get going, and so I wanted to give them a jump start so that by the time my last frost date comes, which is tax day, April 15th, I will be ready to plant out. Typically, I plant out the last week of April, first week of May, because sometimes we have a rogue last frost towards the end of April. Why am I planting kale early? I'm planting kale early because these were special kale sent to me by my friend Masilla from Learn to Grow channel. Masilla sent me a perennial kale as well as a variegated kale that also can be perennialized in my zone. And I wanted to make sure that I grew those well, and I gave them the best shot possible of surviving. So I'm going to start them inside and then transition them outside. Typically, I direct sow all of my kale, and I grow a lot of kale every year because it's our favorite vegetable to eat. And I am able to make kale powder, kale chips, cook it in different things. I use it in soups, and it also freezes well, so it's a good vegetable for me to grow. Today we're going to be talking about seed starting 4 ways. And the first 2 ways I'm going to show you in my studio, and then the other 2 ways are going to be outside. So without further ado, let me explain which 4 ways we're going to be using. The first method we're going to be talking about is growing seeds inside using grow lights and other seed starting equipment. The second way that we're going to be doing in the studio is hydroponically. Now, I have one of those small hydroponic kits, and I'm going to be using it to start my herbs. The last 2 methods will be done outside. Those are direct sowing, so what I call sprinkle it and forget it, as well as winter sowing in containers. And I'll explain a little bit with each. I'll demonstrate how I do it, and then we'll move on. Hopefully this video can be helpful to you. If you would like some additional information, I have released a book on seed starting that I have linked below that you can check out and purchase and have some further assistance. So the first thing we do with seed starting inside, or at least I do, is I get a container that I mix my soil. And the reason I want to do this is because you want to have your soil moist so that your seed has the best opportunity to grow possible. So I like to use, if at all possible, organic soil. This is one that I use. This is not an affiliate or sponsored or anything, but I like to use this soil, Black Gold. It is OMRI listed, which means it's organic, and I can use it to start both flowers and vegetables. If I'm having a hard time, because I live in a rural area, finding soil that I can use, I will then reserve my organic soil for my food and then use whatever I can find to start my flowers. Another soil that I use is this one. It is the Pro Mix Organic Blend, and I use it to start my seeds. So I use this for the veggies, and today we're going to be starting some tomatoes, some peppers, and I'll show you what I do. I also use 6-cell trays or 4-cell trays to start whatever seed I'm going to start. I'm going to put my peppers and tomato in the large 4-cell trays to give them time and space to get nice, healthy root systems so that when I plant them out into the garden, they'll just keep going. These I start flowers in mostly, and I'll pot them up if need be. Additional items that I use are humidity domes. And this one goes with the small seed starting cells as well as a big one. Now I like this one because I can keep my peppers and onions in it for a long period of time. If you notice, this container has these holes on the side. It allows for root pruning and healthier, deep, stronger roots to set up. Lastly, some seeds require dark to germinate. I developed this little system where I take the humidity dome, I put my little wrap around it, and then I put it on top of the voila. Last thing is grow lights. These are shop lights that I got from Harbor Freight, which is a store not too far. It's in the town next door. They were on sale for $16, and so I have these. You want them to have at least 2,200 lumens when you buy a shop light. I got these, and I think these are 4,400. So it's double what is the minimum, but I want to have as lot of light as possible. So they have worked because I'll show you some seeds that I have already started, some that are in different levels and some that I started recently and so forth and so on. All right, so the next step is to moisten your soil. And I like to have it wet but not sopping wet. I like it for it to stick together, but not for it to have where water is running out of it or when I squeeze out of it. Now, I don't have a potting table in my office, obviously. And so I tend to just scoot everything over on my desk and use one corner to start seeds. Once the greenhouse is up and running, I will be able to do seed starting in there. And I do have a potting table for the greenhouse. The gentleman who's supposed to be working on the greenhouse should have been here last week. He got COVID. I did not want him to come, even though he was working outside, because I'm going to be helping with the build, and did not want to expose myself and my husband, who I just didn't want him to get sick. This week, it rained all day Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And the ground was extremely saturated. So he called on Monday and said, I'm going to come this week, but I'm going to come a couple days later to give the ground time to dry out. So hopefully this week we get started on the greenhouse. But in the meantime, I don't want to fall behind on my seed starting because I know some things need to be started 12 weeks before my last frost date, some things 10 weeks, some things 6, some 8, 4, etc. If I waited until the greenhouse was complete, I would have missed all my 12 and 10 week things. I'm now entering the 6 to 8 week period where most of my seeds need to be started. So I'm going to start as many inside as I can. And then once the greenhouse is up and running, I'll switch to starting seeds out there. But I said all of that to say that we really could start seeds no matter where you have in your house. It could be on your kitchen table and all you have is a little corner. You get you one little grow light, hang it from whatever, and you start on your kitchen table. Do what you got to do to get it done. You don't have to start a whole lot, but if you know you have things like broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, which take a long time to get going, and cabbages too, then you would get started earlier. I need a little bit more because you see it's still crumbly. I don't seed start everything. I direct sow all my brassicas that I grow in the spring. In the fall, I'll seed start in the summer for those brassicas that I'll grow in the fall. Certain things I don't even bother trying to grow in the spring. Our springs are so short here in Georgia where I live. I'm in central Georgia, West Central Georgia. And where I live, see, this is what I like. It stays together, but if there's no water being squeezed out when I squeeze it. Where I live in West Central Georgia, we have what I call spring light. Spring is maybe 2 weeks some years is a little longer, but for the most part, we don't have a long spring season. And our springs are hot, so I tend not to do Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and cabbage and broccoli. Any cabbages I grow is a holdover from the fall. Sometimes they just don't get big enough, so I'll leave them till the spring, and then they'll put on the growth that I want them to have. Next thing I do is I just stuff it shut. I stuff it full of soil, and then I actually press it down, because sometimes you'll find you'll have air pockets that develop. So I'm going to go ahead and do a few more of these off camera, and then we'll sow our seeds, label them, put the humidity norms on, and we're done for this type. I'm going to be sowing peppers today, but I'll be waiting until next week to sow tomatoes. This is my little dibble. Isn't it the cutest thing? It allows me to put a small hole and then, cover my seeds. So I've labeled all the peppers I'm going to be growing. I grow a lot of peppers every year. I use peppers in just about every dish I prepare for flavor. I am growing not only sweet peppers, but hot peppers as well. One of the hot peppers that I'm growing is ghost pepper, but as a Jamaican, I have to grow Scotch bonnet pepper because we're known for it. So I have, for my hot, habanero, ghost. I'm growing these tiny Mexican peppers. Someone sent them to me to try. And so I am going to be trying those this year. I'm also growing poblano, Scotch bonnet, jalapeno, banana peppers, coral bell pepper, chocolate bell pepper, yellow bell pepper, mini bell peppers, California Wonder, jalapenos that are lemon spice, it's a yellow jalapeno peppers, and Thai pink. So Sugar Rush Peach also. So there are different peppers that I'm going to be growing. So some are new to me for this year, and others I've grown in the past. I always grow ghost, Scotch bonnet, jalapeno, as well as scorpion pepper every single year, because I make Jamaican hot sauce. I also make jerk sauce, and I want to have my own so that I can make my own. My goal this year is to share how I take some of what I grow and make recipes for home. I've had many requests on Instagram, and I figure I'll walk y'all through what I do as well. I'm also going to do some bok choy and some beets and some kale in these. These will be transplanted out to the garden fairly soon because greens don't take a lot of time to sprout. I just want them to get a couple of their real leaves. I'll harden them off and plant them on out into the veggie garden. And the reason for doing that is it'll give me a jump start on the temps outside, doing them in here. I also have some perennial kale as well as some variegated kale that I'm going to start today as well. I want to, like I said, give those a jump start on outside. The variegated kale and the perennial kale were both given to me as to try by a friend. So I don't have many seeds, and in order to make sure I give them the best fighting chance, I'm going to do those inside and then transition them outside. Now I have a blue kale as well as red Russian kale, a purple kale, lacinato kale, which is dinosaur kale, and 1,000 head kale that I'm also going to be starting, but I'll probably direct sow those outside. Let's get started with our seeds. So these are my seeds stored in these photo boxes. This is the perennial kale. I'm gonna get that soon. I don't like to have anything that's a mix-up. Okay, I am done sowing seeds and I've got everything labeled. I'm going to give everything a drink of water. I've already put water in the bottom so that it can drink from the bottom up, but I'm also going to moisten the top so that the seeds which are sown will have the necessary moisture in order to germinate. As you can see, I have planted quite a bit of different peppers and kale, as well as bok choy and Chinese cabbage, and so forth and so on. These flowers I have already sown. These are coral bells back here that I'm trying to add to my veggie garden. Like I said, I'm going to water. And so what I tend to do is I use a spray bottle and I spray the top until it's nice and saturated. This is what I do until the seeds germinate. Once they germinate, I will continue for a couple more days to water from on top, but then afterwards I switch it to bottom watering so that I don't create a fungus problem and cause dampening off where the plants rot at the point where they emerge from the soil and die off. So I don't want that. So you have to be careful about watering. Once everything is germinated, you switch to bottom watering to ensure that you don't create other problems. Also, how I'm able to keep my fungus gnats down is I actually don't overwater. When you have too much moisture in the place, those fungus gnats, they rear their little heads, and then you have a huge problem. I do have things to treat that though, in case of an outbreak. All right, that's done. Now I'm going to put on my humidity domes and call it a day. Let me give you a look at some of the things that I have already started from seeds. Okay, I've got Scabiosa, Dalmatian cream foxglove, Dalmatian peach foxglove, Dalmatian peach foxgloves. I've got dianthus foxgloves, pansies, straw flowers, and 3 different types of Rudbeckia and some more foxgloves. These are Status and Summerberry's Yarrow. I have some more blue columbine, and this is fennel. The fennel I'm growing for the butterflies in my yard. I like to have food sources for my swallowtail caterpillars. They love parsley and they love fennel. I also have some wishbone seeds that have sprouted, as well as some rainbow coleus. Okay. Everything has gotten a drink of water. The heat mat is on. I have bottom watered them, and I've put the humidity dome on. So now we just wait and see. I'll be following these seeds with you throughout the growing season, showing you how I pot them up, how I harden them off, and how I get them out into the garden. And then I'll show you the food and the flowers that we grow. Thank you so much for checking out video 1 in a series of 4 on learning how to start seeds. Seed starting doesn't have to be intimidating with the right equipment and the right information. I like to do things as simple as possible and as cost effective as possible. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If you have found this content or any of the content on my channel helpful, please consider subscribing. Until next time, happy gardening.